Welcome back to our SEC Media Days coverage brought to you by La Casa Tequila. Peter Burns, SEC Network, ESPN with us. What's up, brother?
Where's the tequila? You can't be sponsored by a tequila company and not have it at least like a gift, especially late in the afternoon.
A good idea.
Like I get it, like in the mornings, it's probably frowned upon to have it, although a little Bloody Mary situation would be terrible. But like in the afternoon, I feel like after 3 o'clock or so, you should have it on the table.
It's in Billy's office for sure. He's hiding it away.
Sure, shockingly.
So this SEC Media Days for you, okay? Like, yeah. I feel like one of the trends each season is it becomes harder and harder to know a team because of the changes.
Yeah.
Okay? One of the teams that you know very well is LSU. Lots of changes, huge expectations. There's some pushback from others, myself included, wondering about the offensive line. What do you say about some of the newcomers and how it could make them a championship-level team or not?
I mean, let's start back with the first deal that you said about not knowing the teams. This is easily as naked as I've ever felt going into SEC Media Days. You know, like traditionally, I mean, even before 2020, you knew, hey, this was year 2, this was year 3, year 4 of a program. They're building up. And right now, I mean, I'm talking to guys at Ole Miss, and they're trying to figure out who the hell's on their roster. Yeah. Right, they got 4 returning starters right there. Same thing with LSU, same thing with you guys over at A&M. And so, and a lot of it too, David, over the last, year or at least 2 years, all we've talked about is name, image, and likeness and the House settlement and transfer portal rules and all this BS, conference realignment, Texas and OU entering it. We haven't really talked football. So this is actually one of the first one in a long time that I'm excited about, kind of learning about the teams. With that being said, I talked to Brian Kelly yesterday, and part of that conversation is how much do you really know your team when you stride over to Media Days? He's like, I have an idea. He goes, but guess what? I had an idea that we thought we were going to be pretty good on defense last year, and we weren't very good on defense. And so these guys are just trying to figure it out along with us. So it's that unofficial kickoff. As far as for LSU, defensively, I think that's probably the biggest group that's going to make the largest jump this year.
Okay.
If you go back and look at Blake Baker, the second year that he was over in Columbia, Missouri, he got that defense ripping. Last year, his hands were tied. They just didn't have the personnel. They got, basically, after Bryce Underwood did not go to Michigan, LSU was flushed with a lot of NIL opportunities. And so basically what they did was they gave a shopping list and said, how can you be a championship contending team right here, right now? Well, one was bringing back Garrett Nussmeier, which he's back. And then now it's making sure that secondary is a whole lot better. The linebacker core, Whit Weeks is an absolute legend in the making. My only concern with them, defensive front. And that's why A&M's actually probably going to be a horrendously bad matchup for LSU coming up this season between what Reed can do and then you guys being able to run the ball as well.
Well, I want to go back to something you said because I think it was really profound, and I hadn't thought of it that way.
You said something. I said something profound.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about this whole situation now.
I feel like we have more to talk about in the offseason than we ever have.
Yeah.
Which has made it actually our prep a little bit more difficult because before 7-8 months, we're talking about the same crap all 7-8 months, and then you start knowing. And now we've had these things that are good for show content, but it takes us away from the football.
Well, and then you combine that with here in the spring now, nobody's putting out a depth chart.
Right.
Nobody really plays a spring game. The access to the practices are as buttoned up as we've ever had. There's a lot less local media that has the opportunity and the budget to do things. You combine all of these, and what happened is people in the media, the easy thing for us to do now is to talk big picture, to talk about, is there going to be 8 versus 9 teams? Is there going to be a college football expansion and the House settlement? If I got to hear the word House settlement one more time, I mean, I'm sure your viewers and listeners are sick and tired of the crap. We are as well too, and the coaches are. So, I mean, this is finally the first time where I feel like we can get into actual football. But it also is like, I don't know if you play Madden or whatnot, but when I remember when I'd play Madden, sometimes I'd just mess around with it and I'd do the generate random team.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes now is on the Ravens, or, just something just to kind of change it up. That's how it feels like in college football right now. I mean, like LSU, for example, a team I know well, Nick Anderson, the Oklahoma wide receiver, he's over there. Berrien Brown, who was great at Kentucky, now he's over at LSU. Aaron Anderson, who was an Alabama guy, is now at LSU. So it's like, how much do you really know about these players? And really, I think the coaches now they don't know.
Sure.
I won't name the coach because he's still here in the conference, but a couple of years ago I had a coach tell me, and I asked him right before he was getting up to the podium, I was like, hey, how much do you know? And he goes, you know more about my roster right now than I do. And because there was so much turnover each and every year. And I think it just creates a lot of parity, and I don't necessarily know if that's a bad thing for college football.
So with the parity, I think it also makes it interesting for those top-tier teams. And I look at the top-tier teams, Georgia, Texas, right? These are the teams that we perceive to be the best. You've got LSU in the mix. When you look at these teams.
Alabama, one of those names as well, too.
But because the questions at quarterback throughout the entire league, outside of LSU there, right? Because I think Nuss, we know what we're getting with Nuss. You know what you're getting with Lenoris, I think, right? But the rest of the league, there's a lot of questions. It makes that top tier very vulnerable.
The top tier very vulnerable, and that secondary tier is where you do have those guys like the Nussmeier, Lenore Sailors. I'd put Florida in there with DJ Lagway as one of those guys in that conversation as well. So I think that's why when this league looks at it, goes, wait a minute, we're going to have a bunch of damn good teams. And there's a bunch of damn good teams that could go 9-3,
sure,
right? And in the NFL, you have that type of season comparative to a 17-game season. You're going to be playoff teams.
Yeah.
Well, here they're saying, is it the same as a Big 12? Is it the same as the ACC? Is the Big 10? And listen, I take a lot of hell on social media, and I give it because I said jokingly around the Big 10, I go, it's kind of a pyramid scheme of a conference where you have the top two or maybe three if you're going to add Penn State to it. And outside of that, I felt like everybody else just contributes to the high level part. I think now, top to bottom, you're talking about 11, 12 teams that can have some pretty good success. You can even go look at Kentucky that was terrible last year. They found Ole Miss on the right day.
Yep.
I mean, that can happen. So I don't necessarily think it's bad for the league. I think there's probably as many, maybe 5, if not 6 teams that could be in Atlanta this year. I think that's great.
So sometimes I feel like a lobbyist in D.C. for Marcel Reed, okay? I'm not saying Marcel.
Why is he not here? Why that upsets me. I went on a tangent on my show this morning about why Marcel Reed is not here.
I don't have an answer for that.
Is he being pushed? Is he the would you?
I think he's the starter, unquestioned starter, yeah.
95% you would think that he would be the starter, correct?
Connor wasn't here last year either.
Right. And so, and again, at some point, I think if you're going to be a college football playoff team and you know who your dude is, if you go into your locker room right now and you say, this is our guy, you bring him here. If for no other reason, he's going to be involved in the pomp and the circumstance, and we want to know these guys as well too. And I was just kind of puzzled. It doesn't shock me with the way Elko handles his business. And listen, at the end of the day, who the hell cares? But I would have loved to have seen Marcel Reed here this week.
Yeah, and I get that. What I mean by lobbying, though, is not that I think he's one of the top-tier quarterbacks in the SEC, but I think people forget that his numbers, and I've said this a lot, and I like to do it with the national folks so you guys can take this back to your shows and consider this.
You are a lobbyist. I like it.
Yeah.
Except for, no, you didn't bring the tequila, but that's fine.
Well, it's in Billy's office, remember. Okay. So you look at his numbers and compare it to DJ Lagway, very similar.
Okay.
The difference is that A&M's defense failed Marcel Reed at the end of the year because if A&M's defense makes a stop against Auburn, if A&M's defense, and they had the lead with a minute left, if A&M's defense makes a stop against USC, those are 2 more wins, and I know the USC one was a bowl game, but my point
But still,
being,
it's the momentum,
It's the momentum. So Florida wins their games at the end of the year, and Lagway looked great, okay? And he deserves all the props he's getting. But I think the A&M defense is why we don't talk a little bit more about Marcel.
I think just simply for the fact, too, is I think there's a whole lot, and you guys are much more in tune to the day-to-day on that there might have been players on that defense at A&M that were already counting the NFL dollars that when the season was kind of quote-unquote, I mean, obviously, you're talking about it still was up to grabs over Texas, I understand that, but there might have been some checkout factor about some of those guys. But yeah, again, it only bolsters the reason why I look at, like, I would have loved to have seen Marcel Reed here as a guy that would have just been, hey, I'm the leader of this program. I'm ready to make A&M football something different than 8-4.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I joked around. We saw somebody earlier today. They're like, what do you figure with A&M? And they were asking me, and before I got to say it, somebody in the background goes, 8-4. I'm like, it's on Elko to change that. And I mean, we did a segment on our show this morning about the ESPN, like the Football Power Index. I still don't ask me how the hell we get these numbers or whatnot. But it had A&M as, I want to say, like the third best chances because of the way that the schedule's set up to make it to Atlanta.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's a tough schedule, but they just got to win on the road, Peter. They don't win well on the road. They don't beat ranked teams on the road. And they got 3 major ones on that schedule this year.
No.
They've got to overcome that. And last year, they overcame winning on the road at least once, right?
No.
They won twice on the road last year. They was 3 years prior before they had their last road win. So now they got to get over that hump. And
LSU in mid-October in Baton Rouge, is that the?
Yep, that's correct.
I think that's where I saw it. Like
starting off with Notre Dame in week 3, and you got Austin at the end of the year.
I mean, you have opportunities, right? You have ups on it. So, again, I'm fascinated. I'd love to say that we know what these teams are, but I mean, we go back and look at it. I think Ole Miss takes a step back. I would be shocked if Tennessee doesn't take a step back coming up this season. I think Vanderbilt probably struggles a little bit more, even though I actually think they're deeper than they were last year. So it's going to be a fascinating league so far this year. And this is the first time, gosh, I can even remember, maybe since we launched the network in 2014, that we have every single one of the coaches here. And I think that it'll be, I would say there might be a change next year, but then you also got to take a look at, now I think coaches or the athletic directors just don't want to pay buyouts. I mean, like Jimbo literally was the last bank robber in the world of buyouts. Well,
because NIL and everything has changed, right? All the money, you can't just keep spending money.
Which would have been highly fascinating. I know that you guys, we're not going to play revisionist history here, but I'm like, the fact of like, had that happened 2 years prior, would you be more apt to have kept Jimbo? Or still oil money would have popped up and found a way to pay $65 million? I mean, it's the butterfly effect of timing and so many different things. It's like, going back to what, if Dante Culpepper and Phillip Rivers, or was it the Phillip Rivers shoulder, Drew Brees' shoulder. If that doesn't work out, he would have gone to play for Dolphins. Saban. Yep. Saban was at the Dolphins, might not go to Alabama, like all of that. I'm
going to say this about Jimbo. It was a problem. There was no doubt a problem. But if the poor guy didn't lose a quarterback every darn year,
I mean, and go look at Elko last year, right? I mean, when was the last time?
2020.
Was it 2020? Yep. And what a weird year that was. So, I mean, even going before that,
you had Kellen Mond for a little
Mond was
bit,
the last time that you had a certifiable, this is our guy for the entire season and get banged up.
Yeah, because the next year was Haynes King, Zach Calzada.
And
then it was Haynes King, Max Johnson, Connor Wigman. Then it was Max Johnson, Connor Wigman, Jalen Henderson, Marcel Reed. And last year, Marcel and Connor. So
right. And again, how many other programs throughout the country, and that's also a credit to A&M, that are deep enough, that are solid enough, that if you lost QB1, what would Bama's record have been had Jalen Milroe not been out there? Or LSU goes down and they don't have Jaden Daniels, they got to play a backup quarterback. So
eventually you got to win, though. It doesn't matter. We lost Le'Veon Moss last year. You got to find a way to muscle through past that.
Yeah. No. It's I'm just trying to stay healthy until the season. So the hair looks good, by the way, man. Growing it out, I like that.
Yeah, and I got a beard this week too.
I was gonna say
that's gonna change.
Will you do the mustache like I did a couple years ago?
Probably not.
It is a little child molesterish.
Yeah,
I honestly don't think. I'm still not allowed within elementary schools.
I'm almost 50, right? So the more facial hair, the older. Yeah, I'm gonna be 49 in 2 months. And the more facial hair, the older I get. So I think I'm shaving it tomorrow. I
was gonna say, well, because what happens is then it used to be when you grow it out, you get kind of little I would get shades of a red or something like that.
Right.
And then now my sideburns are starting to get gray, and
I'm getting gray.
It's a badge of honor. Yeah, I think. I don't know.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
See ya.
Peter Burns.